Hello everyone, how are we all doing? Now, when we're triggered, there are two options. Okay, let's think about this. There are two options for when you're triggered. Option number one, you do a compulsion. You give in to short-term relief. You seek reassurance. You try to escape a feeling by getting some kind of relief, by getting rid of discomfort. Maybe that's confessing. Maybe that's venting. Maybe that's Googling. Maybe that's indulging in some unhealthy behavior, an unhealthy addiction. Maybe it's asking 100 questions. Maybe it's sending a huge message in one of the group chats saying, look, I've just been triggered by this, please help. Okay, so looking for that quick answer, looking for that relief, chasing certainty. Okay, because the internal search, the frantic search, the headless chicken running around internally, looking for that quick answer, that is what you're engaging when you give into that compulsion of when you're triggered. Okay, thinking, oh my God, I've been triggered, I need relief. I need to get rid of this feeling. Because when you're triggered, you will do anything for relief. You will be so set on just getting certainty and getting rid of how you feel, you will do anything. Okay? So remember, when you're triggered in that moment, ask yourself these two questions. What would I be doing for relief? So that will show you the compulsion that you're then doing. And what's the avoidance? So let's say I'm triggered in this moment. Let's say you're out in public and you're triggered. You know that going home, for example, would be avoidance and therefore compulsion. Okay, so that right there would be you choosing to do a compulsion, and therefore you might get short temporary relief, but it won't help you in the long run and will ultimately prolong the fear. It will keep you stuck and it's going to hold you back in the long run. Okay, because each time you give into that compulsion when you're triggered, you are showing your brain that it's a genuine threat, that you are catastrophizing the worst case scenario because you're saying, oh my God, I need to get away. I need to get relief. I can't stand this. This is awful. I must not feel this way. I hate feeling this way. So then you're ultimately going down that rabbit hole of trying to get relief, which all that's going to do is keep the fear stirring and bubbling away in the background and prolonging that suffering. Okay? The other option, and the most recommendable option, the most advisable option, the most helpful option is this. When you're triggered, you simply do nothing, meaning you don't do a compulsion, okay? You don't start asking questions. You don't start seeking reassurance. You don't start venting. You don't start complaining. You don't start looking for that quick fix. You don't start chasing certainty. You don't look for that quick relief. You let it take over. You let the worst that can happen. You've got to really embrace the discomfort. Let yourself feel anything. A huge part of acceptance is internally willing and internally allowing ourselves to feel anything. Dropping that internal guard. Dropping that internal resistance to it. Get away, get away, get away. That is not accepting. Okay? So ultimately you have to let it take over, let it do its worst, and not giving into the compulsion. That is easier said than done. Don't think for a second I'm just saying this and have no understanding of what it's like. And I slipped up many times, many times, because it's easier said than done. I can always sit here and say, or you can sit here and say, when I'm triggered, Sam, I am not going to do a compulsion. I know they don't work. I can see I get short-term relief. I can see that in the long run it serves me no purpose. It serves me no benefit. I'm going to not do the compulsion. I'm going to do what it takes. Then what happens? Triggered, it all feels real again. It all feels incredibly real. You're so convinced that it's true, that it's real, that this one's different, this one's the exception, and back down the relief-seeking rabbit hole you go, whether that's chasing uncertainty, whether that's replaying, shit, what just happened? Shit, what just happened? I need to work that out. Oh my God, I need to work that out. Oh my God, I need to get rid of this feeling. And back down that rabbit hole you go, because it's going to feel real again. It's going to feel so intense. You can't just be told, oh, yes, this is how it's going to feel. It's so convincing when that hits you. When that trigger hits you, it's going to take you off your feet. You're going to feel very overwhelmed. But when your back is against the wall, when you're on the ropes, that is what I'm focused on. how you react to that. It's easy to sit and talk when you're coasting, when things are going well, when you're in a good place. But what I'm focused on, and where real progress and change is going to be made, is when you are triggered, when you are vulnerable to doing a compulsion. It's then your choice. It's then your course of action. What do you decide to do? Do I do a compulsion, or do I do nothing? Do I just carry on with whatever I'm doing and let it do its worst? Okay? The thing that I see the most, the people that I coach and me myself, is you can talk a good game. So you can say, yeah, I will not do a compulsion. But when the going gets tough, it's I'll just do this to get relief this one last time. Oh, I've got a holiday this weekend. I can't be triggered. I need to get relief. And that is the trouble. It's putting it into action. We can all say, I won't do a compulsion, but it's then not doing it when that situation arises, when it gets tough. Okay, because remember this, if you want to make progress, it's not what you're doing when things are going well. Yes, it's maintaining structure, that's important, but the main thing that's going to get the cogs turning and that progress wheel rolling is what you do when things are difficult, when you are triggered, when you're going for a bit of a relapse, when you're going for a bit of a wobble, a bit of a bump, a bit of a setback. That's what I'm focused on. That's what us coaches here are focused on. Because I want to see how you maintain your life structure even when you are triggered, how you do all you can to resist compulsions even when you are triggered. And that involves the addictions, the unhealthy behaviors, all the subtle compulsions you're doing for relief and the avoidance and so on, what you're doing when you are triggered and not giving in to them, resisting them as much as you can. Okay? How you are breaking this fear down. So initially I advise, when that trigger hits you, something that I did personally, I certainly wouldn't dispute there and then. No, that became compulsive. I did initially, it didn't work because that was me frantically looking for an answer. Because although I was telling myself I was disputing, what I was actually doing there was working out and trying to get relief. I was trying to get an answer. I was trying to get rid. Okay, so I have to be wary of that. So what I advise is when that trigger initially hits, sit with those feelings. I would say this isn't a rigid thing. This isn't black and white. I would give it 3 to 4 to 5 days. And if it still latches, if it's still lingering, then we can break it down and rip it apart on paper with the disputing, with identifying the core fear, with the identifying the irrational beliefs, and then rip it apart. Okay, and the reason I say this is because so many times when I was triggered, when I was getting better, I sat with the discomfort, and then as I was going along the journey and getting used to discomfort, getting used to things that would trigger me, while still working on beliefs, because I had a structure of disputing anyway, not only doing it when I was triggered, I had a structure, I had a routine of doing that anyway, that I noticed the triggers wouldn't latch for as long. They'd start to release a lot quicker, to a point where I even forgot what I was triggered about many times. I remember times being triggered sort of the night before, waking up in the morning, I still felt uncomfortable, and sort of by the end of that day, as I let time pass, as I let time play out, as I just let OCD just gradually unlatch and release, because I think it's taking orders from belief. So as you work on belief work, it's going to gradually unlatch over time. I was forgetting what I was triggered by, and by that evening it was gone. Okay, and that's what it's going to do. But remember, if it's not then gone, if it really latches and lingers, I would recommend getting that down on paper. But don't do that instantly. Don't do that immediately, because that becomes very compulsive. Because then you're walking around with a notepad everywhere going, right, shit, been triggered, dispute, no. Okay? Later on down the line, you can get to a stage where you do dispute in your head. Okay? But that isn't that's not like really deep, powerful disputing. That can just be identifying the fear. Okay, let's just break this down. But I don't advise that initially, because that becomes compulsive. Someone who's been in 3, 4, 5 years, for example, I would advise that, because they're very aware of how disputing works. They're very knowledgeable of how the disorder's working, so they can see what's going on there. But when that trigger initially hits, when your back's against the wall, when you're on the ropes, when you're really vulnerable to giving into compulsions, that is when it matters. That is when it counts. That is when the hard work is put in, rather than saying, oh yeah, you know what, I'm coasting, it's fine. Yeah, I won't give into compulsions, don't worry about that. It's when the trigger hits you off guard, because OCD is looking to do that. It's looking to catch you out. It's looking to surprise you. It's looking to hit you off guard. Okay, so it's what you then do in that moment is what counts, and that is absolutely crucial. If you're having difficulty with that, please email phil@ocdrecovery.com. You get in touch with one of the coaches here. You've got me, Sam, you've got Rob, Nick, Momin and Gemma doing coaching calls. You can get in touch with us and we'll book you in as soon as possible. If you have liked this video, please leave a like. That'll be much appreciated and we will speak again. Bye-bye.